For decades and decades, the Irish have been the strongest voice in Europe for Palestine. Just why is there such a deep connection between the two peoples? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady and I'm here in the Irish city of Cork. Now, historically, the words genocide, famine and starvation are words that the Irish are only too familiar with. So it's no surprise that the people of Ireland have such a strong relationship with the Palestinians. I've come here to look at what that support looks like and just why it is so important in Irish life.
Free Palestine!
In towns and cities across Ireland, solidarity with the Palestinian cause is loud and clear. With their own history of being a colonised people, the Irish know oppression when they see it. I came to this Palestinian cafe in Cork, known locally for its delicious Middle Eastern cuisine, and since Israel's genocide, it's become a hub for activists and campaigners. Keith has been serving customers here for over 3 years and told us how working with colleagues from Gaza has opened his eyes to the extent of the suffering.
Being from this side of the world, if you don't actually read up about it, you don't know about it. You don't have a clue what's going on with their troubles, their oppression and everything else. So it was a lot to take in. It's actually hard to reflect on what they're going through because it doesn't seem real to me, because it's really not what happens over here on this side of the world.
I also met Hitam, who had to flee her home in Gaza and arrived in Cork just a few weeks ago after receiving a scholarship from the local university.
I feel that I'm so lucky and I'm privileged to be here in Cork because for me, you feel it from the first moment that you step here, that people are supportive. Wherever you go, you see the Palestinian flags, and it's somehow they are sending the message that people are united by humanity, and you feel the solidarity. So somehow I feel I am home, even though I am far away from home.
This small Cork cafe brings people together over pastries and passion for the cause. And its success paints a picture of the depth of support felt across this island.
Well, let's bring in our guests on this roundtable. I'm delighted to say Izzeddeen Alkarajeh joins us now. You've just seen him, Tom's report there. He owns Is Cafe here in the city of Cork. Caoimhe Butterly is an Irish activist who has been on numerous humanitarian flotilla missions to Gaza. And we also have Joe O'Shea, who is the legendary Irish journalist and broadcaster. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Is to you, first of all, just tell me how you feel as a Palestinian living in Ireland, seeing the support you and your people get every single day from Irish people.
I feel actually proud to call myself Palestinian and Irish at the same time, and I feel happy that I ended up in Cork, a great community and a great extended family. And luckily we have built a business that have turned to become a community of activism around the Palestinian cause.
And as I understand it, when the genocide started 2 years ago, you had to close for a period because it was just so difficult with people, staff members, seeing what was happening on TV?
Yeah, actually, I had a planned holiday in Palestine. I ended up locked in Jordan. I couldn't pass the borders after October 7th. And back in the restaurant here, I had a communication with the staff members. They couldn't operate, knowing the situation their family is being suffering. So I decided to give them a break. But it actually turned to be a huge pressure on all of us to continue operating under such circumstances. We know every day that they are expecting bad news from their family. And with time, their family has become ours. We are equally concerned about their safety. We are under the same conditions until today. Even after the ceasefire, they are still bombing, and their family went back to the area to find their house completely damaged. So the whole family is now homeless. They are looking for shelter.
Thank you, Iz. Caoimhe, talk to me about the remarkable relationship between Ireland and Palestine. It's a beautiful, beautiful relationship.
It's something I've personally seen grow over the past 25 years that I've been involved in Palestine solidarity work, from what was, I think, always a political commitment to Palestinian justice and freedom into a very deep emotional, and I'd say at this stage almost spiritual connection. I've certainly witnessed over the past 2 years a plethora of different groups emerging, amongst them Mothers Against Genocide, healthcare workers for Palestine, a lot of people from various different walks of life and professions and life experiences becoming quite intimately involved in both bearing witness and taking action. So I think obviously there's historical resonance and commonality vis-a-vis occupation, and then understanding, too, of the meaning of resilience, the meaning of withstanding, some of the horror that we've witnessed that our Palestinian friends and comrades and colleagues have had to withstand, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank over the past 2 years and the decades that preceded it.
Thank you, Caoimhe. Joe, talk to me about the history between the two countries and bring in Israel as well, because there is some history there too between Ireland.
There is a lot of history, and a strangely intertwined history between Ireland and Palestine and the State of Israel, partly because Ireland was in the British Empire as a colony in the modern era, and Palestine was a British protectorate. The Caoimhe Herzog, for instance, the president of Israel, was born in Belfast and raised in Dublin. His father was the chief rabbi of Ireland, and he was known as the rebel rabbi, the Sinn Féin rabbi. He spoke fluent Irish, which was very unusual. He supported Irish independence and revolutionary movements very wholeheartedly. And then during the Second World War, when the groups like Irgun and the Stern Gang emerged, they based their terrorism, some would call it, their campaign against the British, on Irish revolutionary leaders, such as Michael Collins, the famous Irish revolutionary leader. In fact, Yitzhak Shamir, who went on to become Mossad chief and president of Israel, his code name was Michael, after Michael Collins. So historically, there were a lot of connections between the State of Israel and between Ireland, going back right back to the foundation of Israel. But what actually happened strangely is that those relations in the 60s and 70s, Ireland sent peacekeepers, and over 40,000 Irish soldiers have served in the Lebanon as peacekeepers. And they saw up close what was happening in southern Lebanon with Israeli proxies, with the absolute devastation of the Lebanese civil war, and were caught in the middle of this. And Irish soldiers lost their lives, targeted by Israeli proxy forces in southern Lebanon. So the Irish attitude to Israel changed. The Israelis didn't have an embassy in Ireland until the mid-90s. Benjamin Netanyahu came to Ireland in 1991 and asked the Irish government, can we set up an embassy? And they said, well, we have problems because we support the UN. Ireland has always been a very staunch UN supporter. Ireland is a non-aligned neutral country and respects the territorial integrity of countries and the right of people to have their own sovereignty. And it was a major problem, and Ireland said no, basically, and the first Israeli embassy only opened in Ireland in 1996.
And now it doesn't exist anymore.
Virtually, I mean, in the modern era, since what has happened in Gaza, it has become very, very difficult diplomatically. The Irish government are being targeted, for instance, by hardcore Zionist supporters in the US, including the US ambassador, has said some things about Ireland, basically saying we support terrorism, we support this, we support that, where the Irish government would say we are just supporting the right of people to exist.
Thanks, Joe. Talk to me about your cafe and your business and life in Cork. You can't travel anywhere here without seeing a Palestinian flag. That must lift your heart when things get hard following the news coverage.
Yeah, definitely it's a source of comfort and a source of pride to be walking around Ireland, everywhere, every city, and seeing Palestinian flags along with Irish flags. This actually gave us the potential to continue supporting our people and our cause. Like initially, it wasn't it wasn't us who used to take the initiative. For example, in 2021, there was about a 1-month war on Gaza, and there used to be weekly demos to support Palestine, against the war on Gaza, and people used to come and offer donations to help the people of Gaza, and I told them, I can't collect donations. I'm a business. I'm not a charity. So some of our customers came and said, why don't you, for example, cooperate with a charity and raise funds in one of your business days? So I took that idea seriously and designated the next weekend to be donated to Gaza. So we posted on social media, we are donating the sales of desserts and coffee next Sunday to Trokra.
It's an Irish charity that does
an Irish
incredible
charity.
work worldwide, yeah.
And the surprise was at 10 a.m. in the morning when I opened the door to start receiving orders. The queue was about 200-300 meters away, and people were waiting the queue for hours to just buy some cakes and coffee and support the fundraising. At the end of the day, when we decided to close the shop, the queue was still the same length, and I had stories from people waiting in the queue, calling their relatives to come in the queue because they needed to do something and come back. They were amazing stories, and at the end of the day, we raised about 7,000 euros in one day. So that was one of the first moving experiences we had, and from that time, Is Cafe has become a community and a source of sharing ideas and collaborating between different businesses and community members who wanted to support Gaza.
Thanks, Iz. Caoimhe, talk to me about Flotillas and your activism. You've been detained by Israel. What was the whole experience like? And tell me, first of all, why did you go? Because a lot of people will say, and I've seen criticism of people who go on the flotillas, I've seen social media comments that were not nice, people saying, mind your business, stay at home, you're Irish, what's this got to do with you? You felt compelled to go and be there.
I've been involved in this sort of sea strategy to try and open a people's humanitarian sea corridor to Gaza since 2008. So the recent flotilla was number 39 in a number of missions that have been organized by different countries and organizations and movements. So in a way, I think for a lot of us, I've lived and worked in Gaza with the Palestinian Red Crescent on ambulance services, with psychosocial projects. I've worked in the West Bank similarly with community projects. So activism is sort of one iteration of what we do. But I think aside from sort of the dramatic headlines, most of us who are involved in Palestine also are involved in more practical day-to-day sort of community-based work as well. The flotillas, however, I think were a response to almost 2 years of global institutional failure, to translate what has been seen in the mobilizations of millions of people across the world in the streets on a weekly basis into practical, concrete political action. And in the absence of that, the slogan of the flotillas is when governments fail, the people set sail. And at its most basic, it is that. And certainly what I witnessed on the recent 2 waves of flotillas were people from over 44 different countries and so many different walks of life. The youngest participant was 18 years old, a young homeschooled Catholic worker, homesteader from New Zealand, and the eldest in his 80s, who was actually an Irish grandfather. And I think they really represented, in many ways, the conscience of a world that has absorbed almost 2 years of live stream genocide. And when I was speaking with so many of the participants, because we were there in a legal observation capacity with international human rights lawyers on a boat named after Shireen Abu Akleh, the brave and beautiful assassinated Palestinian journalist. But the primary response when asked about people's motivations was that people just could not bear to look at one more image of a massacred Palestinian child without taking action.
Thanks, Caoimhe. Joe, Ireland has had a lot of criticism from Israel for its support for Palestinian people. Irish people routinely get called anti-Semitic. Our country gets branded anti-Semitic. Talk to me about that. How does that work, or why is it being said?
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding in why Irish people are so motivated and so interested and so feel for the people of Palestine. Well, Ireland is almost unique in Western Europe with having a huge, terrible famine in the modern era in the 1840s and 1850s. 1 million people dead, 1 million people forced to emigrate. We've had clearances, we've had what you could say amounted to genocide as well. Our language was basically disappeared, all under a colonial power. When Irish people see images of famine, we feel that in a way, and I'm not claiming that we are uniquely sensitive or anything like that, and there have been famines in the modern era in the Ukraine and in Russia and in China, but we feel this in a way that maybe French or German or British people may not, because we remember it. Everywhere you go in Ireland, there are literally famine pits, thousands of bodies. So to characterise it as anti-Semitism is either a mistake or deliberately missing the point in the way that we feel. The city you're sitting in here had a Jewish mayor in the 1960s and 70s, Mayor Goldberg, who was remembered with great fondness, and his family with great fondness. There wasn't really a significant Irish Jewish population. There was some Jewish people here. They came from the pogroms in Eastern Europe in the turn of the last century. Ireland doesn't really have a history of anti-Semitism because there hasn't been a significant Jewish population here. And in many respects, we've been dealing with our own problems, you know. So when Irish people hear, you know, oh, you're anti-Semitic, you hate the Jews, you hate Israel, the reaction is confusion. It's like, no, we care about famine, we care about people being killed, slaughtered.
Humanity.
You know? It's basic humanity, and that's what it's about.
Thanks, Joe. There's a phrase that I've seen used initially as a slur against Irish people, Paddystinians. That was what Israelis started calling Irish people who support Palestine. I hear you sell pens with that phrase. It's one of your best sellers.
Yeah, it became one of our best sellers, and it actually opened our online shop to the international market. And it started actually when I noticed some social media posts by Zionist bots, and it's used to slur Irish people and cancel them after the leave of the Israeli ambassador. And when I started looking into that hashtag, I found some Irish people selling merchandise. I'm proud Paddystinian. So I thought, okay, we sell pens. Why don't we also design a new pen with this slogan? And we ordered the first batch, and it was not selling too much. It's only about 20 pens a week. Until I had an interview with a newspaper in the UK asking me about my experience with this slogan, and after that was published, a new wave of orders came from Irish people in the UK, Europe, even in North America and Australia. So we started selling the pin abroad. After that, I decided to donate 50% of the net profits of this pin, which caused a new wave of sales that ended up helping Gazan people. We cooked soup for starving Gazan people at the end of the week with about 8,000 euros just from this pen.
Just from the sales of the Paddystinian pen.
Yeah.
Caoimhe, the Israeli embassy, or what was the Israeli embassy in Dublin, they had an interesting couple of years, didn't they, in terms of Irish people letting them know how the people here feel, and in particular the Irish rap group Kneecap projecting in bright lettering on their walls that what they were doing in Gaza is a genocide. And the end result was the Israeli ambassador decided that they've gone home.
For now, I'd say that that's a page to be revisited. I think in a way, you know, what has been witnessed in Ireland over the past 2 years is a reflection of what is happening globally. And it really feels like there's a paradigm shift going on, and that is slow and painful vis-a-vis the speed at which we'd like to see that move in terms of implementation of law, of the most basic of international human rights law. But on a ground level, I think I think particularly of students, amongst them at the forefront, young Jewish American students who are reclaiming a history of social justice within Judaism and really saying not in their name. But there are young people on the streets throughout the globe at the moment, occupying their campuses, speaking truth to power. And I think that will be seen electorally, in the years to come, that Palestine is very much the issue at the forefront of many young voters' minds. And I hope political establishments catch up with that, both ends.
Joe, talking of solidarity, I see every Saturday in Cork for months and months now, people have been gathering and marching in support of Palestine and against Israel's genocide in Gaza. Talk to me about the kind of people who attend these marches.
You get a real cross-section of people. It really is, it's just Irish people are kind of marching for justice, really, and that's the way it's seen. And one point that I would make is, if what is being done to the Palestinian people was being done to the Israeli people, Irish people would want justice for them as well, would be just as exercised about it, I think the people who go on the marches and the people who support Palestine, the people of Palestine, and want peace and justice, I think, to sound hopefully a hopeful note, they would like what has happened here in our recent history with sectarian violence in the north and a peace process to maybe inspire or at least show a kind of that there is a way out of this. Irish people know that you will not ever be able to erase another people. You cannot hold them down forever. It's been tried here and it didn't work. What eventually, after all of the centuries of fighting, was people realised you have to find a way to live together. That's why the Irish government supported it, a two-state solution, has asked for justice, for a homeland for the Palestinian people. And that's why I think Irish people do march. And to your question, why do they march? It's simply for that. They want to see justice and peace for everybody there.
Thanks, Joe. Give me your thoughts on the peace plan then as it stands right now. How are you feeling about what you're seeing in Gaza?
Well, I don't call it a peace plan. It's promoted as a peace plan, but I think it's a PR campaign for Israel to retrieve their hostages. And the sad reality on the ground is that there is still an occupation. We are not free to determine our who leads us. We cannot elect our representatives, and we don't have access to anything, to border, to food, to water, to any kind of resources. So all these issues are not addressed, so this is not a peace plan.
And just tell me, from speaking to your colleagues who are Gazans as well, what will they go home to? We're seeing the images, but just paint a picture for us of what there is or what they can do if they do go back.
I don't think it's possible to go back because the border is still controlled by Israelis, and they are not allowing people to return. But they would hope to return to a stable Gaza where they can move in and out freely, and they can support their families. They can rebuild their home. But we are still watching and observing what's going to happen.
How offensive did you find Trump's comments about making it a resort, a luxury resort for rich people from the West?
It's actually sad. Who are you to take over Gaza and giving silly notes like he was surprised that Israelis have left Gaza all this time. They didn't take it a long time ago. So they are looking at Gaza as a real estate project, not as a sovereign piece of land in Palestine.
Thank you. Caoimhe, talk to me about the aid that's needed now at speed and at volume to go into Gaza.
I think it's important, pre-talking about aid, to stress that Palestinians have always said that their struggle for freedom cannot be reduced down to humanitarian aid, that it's not a humanitarian cause, it is one of justice and human rights. But having said that, due to enforced policies of starvation and genocide over the past 2 years, the volume that is needed is massive. And what has been seen today and in the days previous to this, I think the using of Rafah, the Rafah border crossing, as a bartering chip vis-a-vis the remaining bodies of hostages is cynical in the extreme. It keeps children, who are at imminent risk of death from starvation, and many other people on this titrated, sort of survival diet at best. So what international humanitarian organizations have been calling for is the free and unfettered access across land crossings into Gaza for vital humanitarian aid. But beyond that, and I would say, just to flip back to the flotillas, that has always been our call, that when we talk about a sea humanitarian people's corridor, it is trying to stress Palestinians' right to sovereignty over land, over water, over who comes in and who goes out, and to be able to have a corridor that is not dependent really on the whims of at this stage, both the Israelis and the US governments.
Joe, Iz and Caoimhe, thank you all so much for joining us, and Iz continued success with Iz Cafe here in Cork. That's it for now. If you want more debate and discussion, head over to YouTube, search for TRT World Roundtable, and if you like what you see there, do hit that subscribe button. But for me, Enda Brady, and all the Roundtable team here at Páirc Uí Chaoimh in Cork in Ireland, thanks for watching. We'll see you again very, very soon.